my name is Crystal Fletcher, and welcome to All About Canadian Books. Today, my guest is Catherine Black, and we are going to find out the story behind her award-winning novel, Blessed Nowhere, which was the 2023 Guernica Prize for Literary Fiction. But before I ask Catherine all these lovely book questions and we find out more about her book, let me read a brief bio about Catherine. So, Catherine Black is an associate professor at OCAD University, where she was a co-founder of the Creative Writing BFA program. She has published two collections of prose poetry, Lessons of Chaos and Disaster, and a Pat Lowther Award nominated for Bewilderness. Her lyric nonfiction novella, A Hard Gold Thread, was nominated for the ReLit Award, and Blessed Nowhere is her debut novel. Welcome to All About Canadian Books, Catherine.
Thank you, Crystal. It's an honor to be here.
Well, I'm excited to ask you, excited to have you here, and also very excited to learn more about the story behind your book. I'm just going to put this view to speaker.
Sure.
Away we go. Okay, so Catherine, your story is really fascinating because you were or I shouldn't say were, you are the Guernica Prize winner for 2023. Can you tell us, like, what made you decide to submit?
Sure. Well, I always have admired Guernica, and I've appreciated Guernica for the way that they have helped foster my career as a writer. So when I saw the call for the contest, call for submissions, it was real. I don't know. It felt like a good home for my book. It felt like, a first novel, like for me, it meant so much to me, and these characters meant so much to me, and the story meant so much to me that I didn't want to just place it anywhere. I wanted it to be in a home and with a press that I trusted, and that that I knew would take good care of the book and would take good care of me as an author as well. And I know that about Guernica. So I thought, well, on the off chance that it might get somewhere, let's give it a whirl. I don't normally enter contests, but it was it was a bit of a shot in the dark, but with the caveat that I know that if it worked, it would be a good fit.
And how has winning the prize changed your literary career?
It's been huge. It's there's a level of attention that is new to me, that I'm trying to get comfortable with. But beyond that, it's opened a lot of doors for me. It's made me realize that it's my first book of long fiction, and it's really, I think more than anything, it's given me a lot of confidence in moving forward with my long fiction. So I'm working on a second novel. I'm working on another novella, and I probably would have continued doing those things anyway. But it's like that not little. It's a boost of confidence and security around my fiction writing that I really value very much.
Yeah.
And also,
Now,
sorry.
sorry.
And I think it's like it's expanded my readership as well. The attention has been wonderful, and I've the book doesn't officially launch until the 31st of October, but in pre-order there have been so many people reaching out and connecting with the book, and the visibility is just phenomenal. It's been really wonderful.
Oh, I'm so glad. And it was so fun to be at the December launch when we were announcing the prize winner. What was it like for you standing there hearing your name called that you won?
Such an out-of-body experience. I was there to support Alana Wolf's launch, and I thought, oh well, I had some like nervousness around, like, oh gosh, what's going to happen with that announcement. But my husband and I just looked at each other, and he had to say, like, go up on stage, and I was like, what? And he was like, go, and I was like, okay, what? It was really so surreal, and I have to say, like, I felt such profound gratitude. I felt really like on stage, I think I was a bit shell-shocked, but like I felt like I just wanted to take a moment to like silently weep because it really means something when an audience sees your book, gets it, it speaks to them.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, I've lived alone with this book for so long and like it's reached someone. And that was profound. That was so meaningful to me.
Oh, well, congratulations. I mean, it's so well deserved. I
Yeah.
finished reading it, and I just absolutely loved it. And before, I mean, we're talking about this wonderful debut novel, but we should take a step back. And if you can tell us, Catherine, what is Blessed Nowhere about?
Okay. Blessed Nowhere is like ostensibly about what happens when you try to outrun your grief. Um, it's about all the places that people find in the world, metaphorically and literally, to go hide, but
Yeah.
end up finding each other in community.
Mhm.
And I think, I always think of it this way. It's kind of about the place of being at a crossroads between giving up, dissolving, disappearing, and embracing a new kind of life. So, I mean, the story itself is about a mother who suffers a traumatic loss, the loss of her only child, and she hits the road. She hits the road and takes off and finds herself in a community of, in some ways, like-minded people, other people who are um, displaced or suffering or have experienced difficulties in a town in central Mexico, and um, and that's really where her awakening to life begins.
And I have to ask, Catherine, this Abby ends up in this, as you were saying, this small town in central Mexico.
Mm.
Why this town for the setting? Tell how do I, I'm like, how do I pronounce that? Tato
Judeo.
or
Judeo.
oh yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
why there? Why is this city your location for the setting?
Well, I've had a very long relationship with Mexico since I was a child. So I started going to Mexico as a child. I would go there for a month at a time to go to art school when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I took a bus trip from Montreal through northern Mexico, bus and train, backpacking for several months in the late 90s. And then I lived in central Mexico for a period of time, also in that same era. So it has impacted me. I have like a love affair with that country. I'm really indebted to Mexico. And so I think, it was kind of a last stop for her through a series, for Abby, the protagonist, through a series of coincidences and whims, and it was not planned. And so choosing to place it in central Mexico was personally relevant to me. Um, and also it takes place in a fictitious town. So it's kind of an amalgam of San Miguel de Allende in the late 90s and some other towns that I visited during that time. And the name San Judas Tadeo is Saint Jude Thaddeus, who is the patron saint of hopeless cases or lost causes, depending on who you ask. And I thought that was a fitting saint's name and a fitting place for Abby and for the people that she comes into contact with.
Okay. Yeah, as a reader, I was wondering, like I felt that there was this pull or draw to Mexico. So
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
explains a lot. Okay,
Sure.
thank
For sure.
you.
Yeah.
So Mexico, an inspiration to the story, but what actually was your kickoff point? Like, was it the Mexico that came first? Was it Abby that came to you? What's the who or what was your
Yeah.
inspiration?
I mean, that's a personal one, and I'm totally comfortable going there. Um, it was really sparked by an experience that I had in as a much younger, many years ago, many years ago. And it was inspired by a feeling. And the feeling that I had, I was living in central Mexico. My life was in shambles. I was just about to get sober so I'm in recovery for many years now. And at the time I was not. So I was living with this this brokenness and apartness and feeling like a disaster. Um, and living in this place, and my first steps towards recovery took place while I was living in Mexico. So even though our losses and our experiences were very different, I think Abby and I shared that feeling of apartness and of being completely lost in life, untethered, and winding up in a place and looking around and going, first of all, how did I get here? And second of all, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? What's next? Um, and so for me, books are born of big questions like that, or big feelings. Like each of my books has been, especially with fiction, like they've been born of like a big question that requires some unpacking in a larger container of a novel. And so that was like the big question for me. It was like, where to from here?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you've landed and
Thanks.
used your experience to create this incredibly beautiful novel. It
Thank you so
it
much.
really it really is. And I think one of the many things you've done really well is you're certainly unpeeling the layers of grief. And we see how Abby's grief impacts her mother and her sister,
Mhm.
the dynamics of the family. Can you discuss the layers of grief and how it impacted the dynamics of their family, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for better or for worse, it's a topic that I'm really tuned in on. And I think, again, to draw it back to the personal, um, I wrote this book for the reasons I outlined, but also because I grew up with like a real absence at the center of my life. Um, I had a brother who passed away when I was 4, and he was 16 years old. And so I watched my mother uh, survive her grief, and my siblings survived their grief, and how that transpired, how that shook out was different for everyone. There were as many journeys as there are people, and days in the week for that matter. I mean, it could be different from day to day. Um, but the one thing that I really felt like addressing around grief in the novel was this idea that sometimes it seems like the world says, move on, like go, move on, you're done, you should be healed, you should be better. And what I saw in my mom was that she couldn't, or she wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happens to those people? She can't be the only one. It has to be that there are others in the world who are stuck, or who won't move on in the way that the world tells them to move on. And so I think that was one aspect of grief. And that was very much, I mean, exaggerated and newer in Abby, certainly. But the world was telling, and her family was telling her to get going, keep moving, like don't get stuck, get on with it. And and I think maybe she took that literally and hit the road, and couldn't do it emotionally. So she physically moved her body. But I think that her sister finds distraction helpful. Her sister finds taking care helpful, like making everyone else's life her concern. Um, and her mother's grief is very bottled up and very contained, because I think that there's the feeling sometimes that if grief is unearthed, it will never stop sprouting. It'll take over, right? So maybe she's fighting against that impulse. So I tried to show the different ways that grief manifests in life, and how when people are on different wavelengths and at different places in grieving, it's a miss sometimes. You can't be there for each other. Even if your heart is there telling you want to be there for each other.
And Catherine, when I was reading your book too, it was one of the reactions I had to it. I'm like, is this coming to me as an animal lover, or is this coming to me like, is this coming through the author? Like Seymour, Abby's dog.
I know.
I could not, oh no, I might cry thinking about Seymour. But
Oh, Seymour.
like, talk about grief, right? On all levels. So like, was Seymour, was he a conscious decision to add him in the novel?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know, animals grieve, and animals are like, they're so empathic and they're so intuitive, and they grieve deeply, I think, and they feel lost deeply, and in such a way that is so pure. And so there's
Yeah.
kind of a parallel between what Seymour is experiencing and what Abby is. Um,
Yes.
you know, they're just like, they're starving in their lives, you know, they're not capable of like, they're in danger, actually. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it was too hard for Abby to see that and witness that. And she made the
Yeah.
decision to leave.
Yeah. That dog just, oh no, I'm gonna start
Oh,
crying again.
oh
He
no.
just stayed with me for that long.
There are a lot of animals in the novel, and
There are like between Delilah's dogs and Abby's bird, I'm like they were coming at me in all
there's
directions.
cats. There's so, like, you know, I know that's like, it's revealing all too much of like the way that I see the world is I'm very attuned to the animal world, I think.
Well, we're all connected, right? We
Yeah.
are all connected. And
Yeah.
that's certainly another element that I really felt reading your book. Like we are all connected. Oh my gosh. So I think I finally recovered.
Oh, that's so sweet, Crystal. That's so
It is.
nice.
It's a beautiful book. I can't recommend it enough. And for our viewers, there will be links in the description box so you can purchase a copy and also, of course, learn more about Catherine. But Catherine, this is my last question for you today. What are you reading right now?
Oh, well, I am right at the very end of Monster by Jovita Bydlowska. So
Oh,
this is with Anvil Press. And it is so like it first of all, I find it like compulsively readable, not for the faint of heart. It confronts ravenous, insatiable appetites of an inner monster, and an inner monster that's fed by all kinds of trauma and losses and mistreatment. And with that, it's gorgeously written, and it's brave autofiction. So that's what I'm
okay.
reading. And then, can I tell you about what I'm going to read next?
Yes,
Okay. So next,
please.
next I'm going to read Through the Wasp Mouth I Drew You by Nicola Volpe. Um, experimental poetry, sumptuous, gorgeous. It's a Guernica book. It is maybe one poem. It is maybe many poems. I've only leafed through, and I'm beginning this, like, I have it stacked because I'm actually at the very end of Monster right now. And I'm also going to be reading, because this will be fast. This is a knife fork
Oh,
book. She by Kirby. Um, so I'm very excited to read She. I've really enjoyed Kirby's writing in the past, and again, a book of poetry. So one fiction, two poetries.
oh, you've got lots on your bedside
I
table.
do. I do. I always do. Yeah.
I'm gonna just put us on gallery so we're both together. There we are.
Great.
Oh, thank you for all of those wonderful book recommendations, Catherine, too. We'll put links
Sure.
down below to those books too.
Wonderful.
And I have so enjoyed speaking with you today and learning more about the story behind Blessed Nowhere. Oh, love it, love it, love it. Can't say it enough.
Crystal, I can't thank you enough. It's such a joy to be here with you. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you speaking about the book today.
Oh, an honor, an honor. And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching.
Thank
Bye.